brute force. If it doesn't work, you're just not using enough. You're listening to SOFREP Radio, special operations military news, and straight talk with the guys in the community.
Hey, what's going on? This is Rad with another awesome opposite. I said opposite, but I meant episode. But you love me, so you're going to listen anyways. And this is Rad, and we have another episode of SOFREP Radio, and I am about to get into it right now with my next guest. But first, I got to introduce the merch store, right? SOFREP.com/merch, or I think if Callum will put store.merch.store something, SOFREP.com. Go check it out. Get some of our merch. We would love to have it, okay, on your body. Wearing it, drinking out of the mug, anything you want to do, go get the merch. Second is our book club, right? So the gym that we have that we provide you virtually is the book club for your brain, the muscle in your mind. So you want to just sit there and read a book, open a book, read it, put your brain to use, and go from there. Check out SOFREP.com/book-club to learn more about our book club at SOFREP, curated by special operators behind the scenes, making this library of cool books that they think are good. So check it out, all right? So I'm really excited. You probably noticed I'm kind of going all over the place. I actually have some questions written down for my next guest, and I'm gonna introduce Wylie McGraw, and I believe you're 45 years old, right?
I am.
Welcome to the show, Wylie.
Thanks, Brad. Appreciate you having me, brother.
Yes, now what did I bring you on the show for? Because I'm 47, you're 45, and here you are deciding to re-enlist, maybe not just a first time, maybe not just a second time through boot camp, but maybe a third time through boot camp. Is that right?
Yeah, that'll be my third time.
Okay, now let's drop that hat right there, and I'm gonna read Wylie's bio that I was sent over. So let's go through that real quick. At 45, Wylie McGraw is the oldest combat veteran in decades to re-enlist for active duty. But for him, this isn't just about helping to fix a broken military. A devout Catholic, he felt a spiritual calling to serve again, believing God and patriotism left him no choice. After a 16-year career advising, optimizing the lives of Fortune 500 CEOs, pro athletes, and billionaires, Wylie answered the call of duty once again, returning to service as one of the rare few accepted into special operations, psychological warfare. Can I say that?
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, perfect. So despite a ruptured ACL, he regrew without surgery, and 21 years out of uniform, he's gearing up for his third round of boot camp because he believes the U.S. needs a stronger military now. Listen, I'm going to interrupt this bio. I feel like I'm reading a movie narrative, like coming to a theater. So let me keep going. I feel good. He believes the military is at its weakest point in modern history, plagued by wokeism, a leadership vacuum, and a recruitment crisis where 77% of young Americans are unfit to serve. Integrity is gone, lethality has declined, and legacy military families are telling their kids to stay out. Wylie's mission, restore core values, mentor future-ready soldiers, and help America face near-peer threats like China and Russia. His views align with Trump's hardline vision to rebuild the military, and with veterans like Pete Hegseth now leading the Pentagon, he sees this as a moment to help course correct. Having helped over 100 combat vets rebuild their lives, Wylie understands what it takes to face and overcome personal battles. He believes much of today's cultural decline stems from people avoiding those inner struggles, creating a void now filled by ideologies that prize comfort over strength that are weakening the nation from within. So he's a voice for those who believe masculinity, strength, and discomfort matter. Wylie is set to deploy in August and has no holds barred perspective on what it really takes to lead and serve at the highest level. Man, you've been featured on NBC, NPR, Forbes, the James Altucher Show, Cleared Hot, SOFREP.com now. Wylie is in-demand voice, so with mental health, peak performance, and national security, and he's a powerful presence in today's culture war. Welcome to the show.
That's good to be here. I'm looking forward to this conversation, Rad.
Yes, I feel like I'm also a force in our pop culture war. So we have two forces together. All right, and we both are bearded. Let's call that out right now. We both got beards. Yours is going to be gone soon, though.
Say that one more time, Brad. I'm sorry. I apologize. Yeah, please.
Oh, sure. I said, so we have two forces of the pop culture war
Yeah.
together at the same time, me and you, and we are both bearded.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
That's right. Yours
But
a little bit
you-
longer than mine.
Yes, but yours is going to be gone soon, I said, because we're filming this in July.
Yeah.
And you're going to be leaving in August. So when this actually goes up in about 2 or 3 weeks, you may be just in boot camp again.
Yeah, I leave August 12th. I fly out to Missouri. So yeah, I'll definitely be in boot camp by the time this comes out.
So just know that while you're in boot camp, folding your hospital corners yet again,
Yet again, yeah.
this will be going out. So let's talk, okay? So
Yep.
you have gone to combat 3 different times. You have enlisted, re-enlisted. What is it? Is it each time, is it something to do with religion that pulls you back in to serve, or is it something different? Like this time, reading your bio, it's like, you were called to serve with God.
Sure.
And I can respect your faith. But was the first 2 times also called to serve from God? Or was that like...
Yeah, that's a great question to ask you, because when I grew up in a legacy military family, so right off the bat, you're being bred in that environment where both your grandparents, both grandfathers were D-Day vets. One was in the Army Air Corps, flew B-17s, was a bomber with them, and then my other grandfather was a signalman in the Navy, so he was off the shores of Normandy. So that right there started off, I think, learning about the military, the history of the military, what it means to be born in this country, the blessing that is. And then seeing everybody in the family. My father was a corpsman during the Vietnam era. My uncles were MACV-SAW Green Berets during Vietnam. My stepdad, eventually, I found out, was a Desert Storm vet, 12 Bravo combat engineer. So, for us, it was more along the lines of how do we give back to what we were born into? We grew up in a big Catholic family. My grandparents are from Scotland and Ireland, so I'm second generation. Devout Catholic. Believing in and trusting in the Lord that He will guide us and He will provide for us. So the whole upbringing, being an athlete, getting disciplined in that manner as well, learning about time management. I talked about that prior to recording.
Yeah.
And just being bred and born and immersed in that environment was huge for us. So I think myself and my middle brother, when we got into high school, I think junior high school, we wanted to know what our future held for us, and we decided to do a junior Marine Corps program out in California to kind of get a feel if the military was our calling. And it sure was. It landed with both of us. He wanted to be a SEAL. I wanted to go jump out of airplanes and be a Ranger. Of course, both of us joined the Army because, that's a long story with his whole Navy career. But he became the Ranger. I ended up serving with the 101st Airborne Division as an infantryman and mortarman. I loved it. I tried my hardest to get to Ranger Regiment because that's where I really wanted to go. But of course, the global war and terrorism popped off. So right before that happened, I had to give up my Ranger School slot and kind of go fight, in combat with my unit. Yeah. But I think that was naturally just, I didn't know what to do as a young man. And it wasn't necessarily, I would say, conscious that God put it on my heart to join the military at that time, even though I feel that we were called to serve. It felt right. Both of my brothers and I served during the global war and terrorism. So 3 of us, my middle brother and I were in Iraq together in 2003. It felt
crazy.
like it was. Yeah, it was. I got to hang out with him because I got to fly as a door gunner during the push to Baghdad. So I got to hang out with him at the SOF compound called H1 that was out near Syria. So it was really cool to kind of link up with him, spend a few days with him, kind of hear how the Rangers are doing out there, hearing some stories. But I tried to stay in. I wanted to stay in. There's just a lot of hoopla with the military at the time. They weren't guaranteeing any schools anymore because they didn't know how the war was going to go. So I just couldn't give my life anymore to the Army if I wasn't going to be guaranteed a career path that I felt comfortable with. So I got out. I pursued college. I got an education, but I still felt this pull in my heart. Something was like, hey, you got to go back. Your buddies are over there. And I tried to go back in the military in 2006. And they said no to me. There was no room for an infantryman, which I thought was hilarious. No room. I thought, okay, that's weird. It's weird. Yeah, we have no room for you. The recruiter, what's funny, right? The recruiter said you could be a big wheel mechanic. I said, dude, I'm a trigger puller. That's what I'm built to do. I'm not a mechanic. I'm not a grease monkey. That's not how I'm
right.
formed. So I quit on that, continued my education, got my degree in fire science technology, started an alternative medicine program. And then, I started my business working with veterans, basically helping the guys who were coming home from those wars deal with combat-related stresses and PTSD so they can keep their benefits while going to school. I helped usher in a couple of veterans resource centers at some of the local colleges in California. I became a voice for mental health between the colleges and those veterans to help them maintain and stabilize benefits so they can go to school and not lose out on those opportunities. But then I felt that pull again. So in 2009, I tried to go join the Army again. They were like, hey, the height of the war right now in Iraq is really hot. Everybody wants to be an infantryman. There's still no room for you. So I realized, I think God was telling me at that point, look, Wylie, it's not the time for you to do this. Continue down your path with your business. You have more important things to do over here with your talents and your gifts. And so I continued on my business, working behind the scenes, being introduced to leaders, public figures, athletes, other veteran leaders as well, to help them battle their demons through PTSD, stress, other aspects of life. Yeah. I was really good at what I did. But at 2020, the pandemic kicked off. I had to come out into the public and create a website and do all these things I didn't want to do that I wasn't really into. And then it's suddenly into 2022 timeframe, my business after my last client kind of started to slow down, and none of the PR efforts that we were doing were working. Nothing was landing. People just were not attracted to the kind of work that I was doing because I was going against the grain of typical personal development. I was challenging those kinds of people and realizing they were keeping people stuck rather than getting them out of the hole they're in. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, what's going on right now? So I took it to prayer and I started talking to my wife about it. And I thought, something's going on here. Something's changing. Nothing's working. And long story short, I started having these really intense dreams that I was back in Afghanistan with my mortar team. And the dream kept reoccurring. It was the same dream over and over again, that we were fighting in the war over there. And I was excited. I felt really pulled towards leadership, being with my guys. And every time I'd wake up, I'd go, I didn't even know I was home. I'm like, what's going on? Why am I having the same recurring dream week after week? So through discernment and prayer, talking to my priest, talking to the people in my community, and I realized in my heart, there was this aching, this calling, pulling me back, saying, you've got to go back into the military, which I'll tell you what, you want to talk about a midlife crisis? We laugh at that all the time. I'm like, I did not choose at 43 years old to wake up one day and say, you know what I need? A military enlistment. And it was just like, yeah. So we laugh about it. And I go, but clearly there's a mission for me there somewhere. I have no idea what that is. But when I started to call the recruiter and knock on those doors, every door started opening up. I mean, the VA said yes to everything that I needed to fix some of the injuries I had in my body. The recruiters are like, what do you want to do? We'll give you anything you want. We can get you into special operations where I think you belong. So all the doors that we knocked on said yes. USASOC said yes within 2 hours of submitting my packet to go to selection in the qualification course, which was weird that even the recruiter said that's unheard of. So I thought clearly everything that I was praying on, that was the calling for me to come back in, was real and right. So I just pursued it and took 16 months from start to finish. Yeah, that's where
Are you going in as an 18 X-ray this time? Are you going in as an 18 X-ray series recruit? Like, are you going in for the Green Beret? Is that what I'm understanding? The Q course?
I'm sorry, Red. I think my microphone broke up. My earphones. I couldn't hear you.
Oh, I said, sorry. Can you hear me now?
I hear you now.
Did you say that you're going through the Q course for special selections for Green Beret? Or what was that you're going through?
Yeah, I'm still, some reason I'm not catching what you're saying, but maybe that's my fault. So can you just repeat one more time?
You know what? Please? Yeah. Are you re-enlisting under a contract? Are you following me so far?
Yeah, I didn't hear the first part. I don't know why.
Okay, so your contract, is it an 18 X-ray contract?
No, it's another job in special operations. I don't get too much into that because I was not to really, they say, dox myself, but it is in alignment with the Green Beret community. It's an information warfare. That's as much as I can share. But the long story short of it is that it was the job that I was most qualified for, and they said this is what they want you, they need you, they're short on people. I thought there's no age limit to that job specifically, and I've been doing my research on it, and I feel like I'm prepared the last year and a half physically, and it's going to be a very, very interesting ride for sure.
So you're airborne.
I'm sorry?
You are airborne.
Yes, I will be active airborne. Yes, the job requires an airborne qualification. Correct.
Are you already airborne?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, right. So you could be in the 101st Airborne and still not be airborne.
Yeah, the 101st Airborne, I mean, that's the time-honored tradition of what it was at first originally used for, was an active airborne division. But over the years, they transferred into the air assault kind of like approach to combat tactics. It still has airborne units on post, like the 5th Special Forces Group alerts people, different units within the division, but it's an air assault division. They just kept the moniker of airborne on top of the unit patch. But yeah, I had airborne in my contract when I first joined, but long story short with that is when I went to Fort Benning and graduated from infantry training, I went to the airborne medical physical. And they ended up telling us that they needed to push through 9 different West Point cadets that had graduated and needed their slots to get to their unit because they were needed ASAP. So we got the big green weenies, what we call it, where it's kind of like the needs of the Army. Sorry guys, you're the lowest men on the totem pole. We got to take your slots. So I just sucked it up and dealt with it. I was like, whatever. I just didn't do all this again for the second time to get out of the military on a breach of contract thing. So I stuck it out. Went to the air assault school. I did EIB, got my EIB while I was there as well, and I was fine with it, but. When I did re-enlist after I got home from Kosovo, my first deployment, I asked for airborne, and they basically told me that there was no need for me to have that, even though I was trying to get to Ranger Regiment. I thought, well, this is the second time the Army's kind of kicked me in the face. So when I was up for re-enlistment in Iraq in 2003, my first sergeant, who was a former RRC guy, Ranger Reconnaissance guy, said, hey, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to get to battalion. That's where my brother is. That's what I want to do. And he's like, well, we can get you your airborne and your Ranger school when we get back home in 6 months from now. But you have to give us 6 years. And I thought that's a little bit of a hefty ask for a non-guaranteed thing, especially in a combat rotation like this. So so now I'm finally going to get to be no more a leg. I actually get to go to airborne school after all these years and experience. I've been preparing my knees for this for sure, doing a lot of PLFs at the gym, doing a lot of preventative medicine for my knees, regenerative medicine, prolotherapy, PRP, to make sure I have all the tissue that I need to handle the impact of jumping out of military aircraft. So I have 650, 700 civilian skydives, which is a completely different beast all in itself, but I'm looking forward to doing the static line stuff.
Yeah, static line, PLFs. I remember my father, he's a Green Beret, and he would get ready with his guys, and they would just jump off the picnic table on the tarmac, and they would just do a couple picnics, and I'd get up on the picnic table with them, and I'd walk off the end of the picnic table and hit my knees and roll, and I was a little 10-year-old me and stuff like that. So, yeah, and I did see one of my dad's guys get picked up on a halo shoot. He was a square one. They all static lined. And then his buddy, one of his special guys, he's like, I'm going to jump out with the square shoot, right? But he was a little dude. He was about 5'4", and
Floated, didn't he?
And the wind picked him up about 30 feet off the ground and slammed him.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
how I actually ruptured my ACL, is because my parachute collapsed at 20 feet on a landing there was no wind coming in Oceanside, and I had no power in my flare whatsoever, so I went straight to the earth. And when I did my PLF, which is what we're taught to do in the skydiving community, and the way I twisted to kind of roll with the fall, I kind of rotated my knee and tore my ACL. So it's just it's lessons learned, but nevertheless, at least I didn't femur myself. Everybody that kind of hits the ground in the skydiving world usually breaks their femur or their tib fibula. So I was glad at least I'd rather tear the tissue rather than break the bone. So or
a pelvis. Pelvises get broken, feet get broken. My dad's unit got dropped.
Skydivers hitting the ground and breaking everything in their body, and it's not fun. So you got to be very mindful of how you do these operational stuff. You got to be well focused and train when you train. It's not a thing just to kind of take haphazardly. Skydiving, military free fall, static line, all of those things. A lot of the guys I jump with are Navy SEALs, Green Berets, guys that are military free fall instructors that I jump with, and we constantly focus on, hey, how do you handle emergency procedures when you're about to land? How do you take care of your parachute if you have no power in it whatsoever? How do you make sure your body can hit the ground properly so you don't end up injured? So it's some guys don't focus on that, and they get really badly hurt. They get distracted when they're in the middle of landing their parachutes. Like, you guys, the skydive's not done until you're walking back to the packing area, period.
Yeah, skydiving is attempting suicide with the hopes of living. You're literally hucking yourself out of a plane purposefully. And what's the end result that could happen? We already know it's death. It's so serious, but yet your chute opens and you're like, I'm alive.
But you're alive for that moment. So you have to still manage and control your parachute all the way to the ground. You're still responsible to fly that canopy until you land safely. You're not out of the skydive until you're walking back with your buddies, laughing about what you guys just did in the sky. And I find people, from the military side of things all the way even to the civilian side of things, some people get distracted or they forget that crucial element is, like, you have to maintain that standard, that discipline, so that you can walk away from these things. Because in the military community, jumping is dangerous. It's much more dangerous than skydiving. So I think I've heard stories. My brother was a Ranger Regiment, guys that are making mistakes coming out of these aircraft at 800 feet, doing these like mock combat jumps. And it's like in Ranger Regiment, and they're getting hurt, landing on the rucksack, breaking their legs, their pelvises, because they lose that focus. They don't maintain the feet and knees together. They don't remember their PLF properly. They just basically bullet into
It's
the
so
ground.
true, because Wylie, my dad's unit was dropped on a night drop at a training out here at Camp Williams. They were doing combat jumps, and I think they were slotted for like 700 or 600 or 700 feet. And what happened was they were on course. The C-130 was cruising, and they got the go from the jump master. The guys, are you hearing me still? You still got me, right?
I got you, but it's coming in and out. Just to be honest with you, but it's fine. I can roll with you.
Okay, cool. And they dropped him on the side of a mountain at night.
Jeez.
So the altitude was there, but the distance wasn't. And so the guys scattered down, broken femurs, broken feet, pelvises. My dad got a head injury that pretty much outed him out of the military. His whole unit.
That sucks.
A whole A-team, bro.
Oh, jeez.
In a training mission.
You got to take out an entire operational detachment. It's not the right thing to do, especially when it comes to training. That's so wrong.
So you have to really treat it every single time as if it's the realest thing ever. And when you're saying that you're working with these Navy SEALs and these other airborne and skydivers who are constantly checking each other, that's proper. You're going to bring that old head mentality to your platoon. You're going back in the Army, right?
I am, yeah.
These young kids are going to look at you as an old head, right?
That's right.
So I should just start calling you Grandpa Wylie.
See, I knew that was coming.
You sure did.
I did. That's all right. I'm okay with that. But I think that's part of the mission too, is be able to mentor some of these young guys, whether I know where it's going to happen or how it's going to happen, is if I can bestow some information or knowledge that I've learned through my mistakes in this world over the last 20 plus years, and save somebody the hassle or the heartache of an injury, because it sucks when you get injured, and then I'm happy to bestow that, because at the end of the day, attention to detail is primary. You checking your gear over and over again. You should never think that you've got it figured out once you've kind of got the fundamentals down. I think in the community as well, a lot of guys get complacent on the aircraft. It's like you have to be mindful every single step of the way. That you can never become complacent, because you will get hurt or killed. And at the end of the day, I think giving that information to soldiers, young soldiers, so they can take that with them through their careers wherever they go, is going to be pertinent. So.
100%, bro. And you don't have to shine your boots anymore, bro. Did you even shine your boots when you went?
Oh, I did. Yeah, okay, I joined the Army in the 90s.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I was like, wait, yeah. Third time. Now I want to call out someone who joined the military as well. From 1978, he enlisted. It was Staff Sergeant Monty Gould. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Monty. Monty joined the Marine Corps in 1978. And then he re-enlisted in 2020 at 59 years of age.
Yeah, that's who that is. Okay,
into the Army as a staff sergeant who has been there and done that kind of attitude. I know that yours says that in the last decades, that you are like the oldest to go through boot camp, perhaps with combat experience.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I know that was probably thrown in there given work that I'm going to go do, the people that are trying to support, this mission, get me on the show, et cetera. But I think what I've heard was I apparently am the oldest that has been recruited in the Phoenix, surrounding Phoenix area.
I see.
Because I know who that is. And I remember reading about him a few years ago and how he re-enlisted. He went back through basic training in the infantry again. And I thought, well, if that 59-year-old man can do it, there's no way in heck that I should be worried about my ability to complete that as well. So kudos to him. I think it comes down to, especially at your age, it's mindset as well. And are you physically prepared to meet the standards set forth by the community? So to me, mindset, and then making sure I'm training harder than I expect to be beaten up when I get back in there, so that my body can handle the rigors that they're going to put me through. I've already done it myself. And it's, when I've been running a lot lately, been running 20 miles a week, and it's amazing when you run by yourself how boring it is. But I realize if I can do it by myself, then I should be okay on a team. So in a
cadence with people doing the same thing with you, left, right, left. Don't forget how to walk. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna be like, did you forgot how to walk?
Not at all.
Who taught you how to walk? Left, right, left.
There was that whole thing with the Green Berets at the military parade that were out of step, and everybody blew up on the internet about it, where it's like, these war fighters can't even march in step. And part of it's like, I agree with that. You should be disciplined enough in the drill and ceremony things, because it's part of the structure of the military discipline. But at the same time, do you really care more about your war fighters like that actually being efficient in drill and ceremony, or you want them to spend more time on going and doing what they're meant to be doing? So it's fun. But I will never forget drill and ceremony because I realize how important it is. And I want to make sure that if I'm in a position of leadership at some point, that I'm bestowing that to these young kids, so they don't think that I'm slacking, and that they think it's okay to slack. So
You're referencing the Green Berets that were marching for the 1776/Trump birthday in Washington earlier this year. I actually saw what you just are referencing on a video, so I picked up on that, and I just want to describe to my listener, during the president's birthday or the 1776 of the Army, however you split it, they were driving tanks down, and there was a scene where there was like a whole company of SF Special Forces Green Berets just moving down the parade route. We don't know what their orders were to be given. No one said, hey, you can just march at ease. No one said anything like, hey, we don't know what they were told. And those guys are unconventional war fighters who rucksacks on their back with radio equipment and heavy equipment in them all day long, every day, everywhere, all over the place. They're jumping out of airplanes. They're doing all these different types of things that require them to be who they are. And so if they want to just kick it and break dance, if they want to bust out a move, I'm chill with it, because again, my dad is a Green Beret. And so I walked around with those guys growing up as a young little Mowgli, just looking at all these big Baloos and all these Bagheeras from the Jungle Book, like all these big dudes just like bringing me into their culture. I'm okay with them just nonchalantly walking. And some say that might have been their way of saying, we're just being told to do this.
That's true, because they don't do anything
politicizing it
accidentally.
No. They're surgical. They're scalpels. They are surgeons. And, they could have been just marching, if we're going to guess, just we have to be here because we were ordered to. And, they don't believe in politicizing themselves. But politicians want to politicize them.
Of course they do. So they're going to latch onto something very small and insignificant as that. So I totally understand what you're saying, because I had uncles that were Green Berets too. Before he died, my one uncle was a MACV SOG guy, and stories we talked about in the community when he went to Vietnam, and just how they're like, dude, this is all we focus on. We're not meant to just be these political pawns for people and presidents. We're designed to be in the shadows doing our job. And when people try to use us as these political pawn pieces for their agendas, he's like, we don't care. We'll basically give him the middle finger. And I was like, well, okay, kudos to you, man. That's great.
That's good you say that. I was talking to a lieutenant general one day. Of course I was. And he said to me, hey, Rad. I'm like, what's up, sir, dude, sir? And he's like, I was like, how did you transition from one Republican president to a Democratic president? How did you make that transition happen to be peaceful and not politicized? He's like, well, I'll tell you right now, Rad. It says U.S. Army. It says U.S. Marine. It says U.S. Navy, U.S. Coast Guard, U.S. Space Force. Is that a thing? I'm just saying, okay, because he said that's what it is. That transition means the U.S. comes first, not either side. And so I'm happy to hear you say that, because, I just like to hear that. I want to hear that it can be a Green Beret just saying, hey, I'm just here, man, because you told me to be here, dude. Now you need me to go over there and do these other things that are really horrible.
Yeah, and that's I'm glad you said that too, because make this quick. It's when we swear our oath. The first part of the oath is saying, "I swear my oath to the Constitution of the United States." Yes, we might say after that, and again, it's in the oath, that we will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the officers appointed over me. But that doesn't mean that we will give blind allegiance just to the man in office. We're focused on the Constitution. For me personally, and my whole family's that way. It's like we're all about our country, our flag, our Constitution first. If anybody goes against that, I'm not supporting that whatsoever. It's like, you know what? And I hope that there are more people out there that realize if we can get back to the constitutional foundations of this republic, we can actually steer the ship back in the right direction. And it starts with the military. And I think that's what you talked about earlier, is that if I can play a part in helping turn the ship around, a small piece of it, I'm just one man. But at the end of the day, the one man, we build it up with people with the same kind of mindset, focus, and values. We can redirect the ship back into where it belongs, and it can help usher in that kind of value system back into the republic for people to focus on the Constitution and not on their personal feelings or their personal agendas or their political views or whatever their social experiments they want to play with. Let's get us back on the right track. We've never been perfect. This country will never be perfect. Nobody will ever be perfect. So if anybody keeps focusing on, well, America, I see all these problems you guys had, so how can you think you're great? Well, it's like, why are you focused on the small problems? Yes, they suck. Why aren't you focused on the good things that we have done for the world? I mean, we've sacrificed blood, money, tears, time, and energy to save and protect people all around this world. We need to get back to that position as well.
And I agree, and like cutting these programs that have been out there recently, right? And is like, like USAID, I've talked to people all over the spectrum, believe it or not, who are involved in these, letting goes. Can I come on your show and talk about XYZ, And I'm just like, I'm okay with, I guess, my tax dollars helping people if that's where they're going, and if it's for another nation to have a healthy, drinking well or water or from famine, so that it could be a better country, so that they could be a better people to themselves. And that overall, you can have a whole bunch of armies working together, or you can have Caesar getting killed, you can have Pompey getting his head cut off, you can have, all these different leaders who thought that they would just control people. Just control the situation, right? Now, some of them wanted to give to others, but they also wanted it all for themselves. And so look what happened to Caesar. Stabbed multiple times, beheaded was Pompey. All these people back in the day wanted control over the whole world. Alexander the Great.
I was thinking about that too. And it comes back to what are they focused on as leaders? Leadership is not about their position. It's not about their power. It's about being able to inspire and move and motivate people that you're there to lead, but also create more leaders because of that impact. I think if we get back to a value system, focusing on discipline and more like objective morality, not subjective morality, realizing that the inherent good starts at home, starts with disciplining children, disciplining yourself, leading by example, not saying the words and then going off and doing something different like our politicians do. But going back to what you said, Green Berets, if you think about the Green Beret community, they were built to go off and conduct not only unconventional warfare, but it's foreign internal defense, force multipliers. They're there to help build up people within communities and countries that are being oppressed, so that we can push back on that and get the world to actually live in harmony and move together in one direction. And we have this chaos going on because our leaders forget where they come from. They're influenced by something evil. They allow their personal agendas to get in the way of their job title and their responsibilities. How do we stop that? Well, we got to get more people in positions of power and influence that have these types of morals and focus. Get us back on track to realize that we cannot sustain like Caesar, et cetera, if we keep going down this track. And you can see the cracks happening all around the world right now.
Very much so. And I mean, we kind of, as a U.S. nation, seem to be, just flexing right now and saying like, number one here, but we should be really worried about what we care about, and that's everybody else also being number one as an American. That's how I feel. If Sweden's number one and we're number one and everyone's all number one, everything's like.
It's I don't know. I don't understand the mindset, but at the end of the day, I kind of do too. Some of the leaders I worked with in the past, and you can see the internal mechanisms of where their mind is at. And it's like, this is why your personal and professional lives are broken. This is why you're not getting as much done as you could be getting done, given who you are, your capacity, what you've accomplished. So if you look at leadership around the world, there's so much like pride and ego and vanity involved in that. Nobody's pulling them back and saying, hey, this is exactly why you can't solve the problems you're facing right now. You're putting the blame on other people. You're not taking on responsibility.
Right.
Like you and I talked about prior to this conversation, where it's like, if you can realize being in a failure position, failure is part of success. It's part of life. It's how you react to failure that matters, not the failure itself. And I think leaders around the world, especially in America, are so focused on avoiding feeling the embarrassment of their failures. They keep pivoting and putting the blame on other people. And then we're seeing the results of that is chaos in the community, chaos in society. Civility has gone out the window. People are not able to have conversations without lobbing ad hominem attacks. People don't know how to stay on topic, focus on the one piece that we're trying to discuss. Everybody keeps what about each other, moving different the goalposts. And that starts and stops with leadership. It really comes down to the person in that position of power going, okay, can I accept responsibility in the face of embarrassment, and letting people see that humility is the strength. My ability to actually be a leader and be respected comes from my ability to accept and acknowledge my failures and do something about them or respond to them differently, so that I can bestow that kind of wisdom and knowledge on the people that follow me and uplift them as well. So as America, we were built, and if we're the head of the pack, we're the wealthiest country on earth, and we've had the most, the most historically successful country in the history of the world. Our job is to be uplifting people rather than trying to hold them down and make them feel like they're less than. It's like, guys, this is the problem. And we can fight evil in this world, but you're not going to do it with trying to act like you're the big, tough bully on the block. We're not supposed to do that. Now, there's a difference between propping people up and sustaining them financially versus giving them a little bit of a headway so they can actually grab onto the horns themselves and pull themselves up with our support as leaders. And I think that's what we're missing.
Right. And so, like, sometimes, there's people in our government that need to recognize the word, like, hypocrite,
Yeah.
and I think that, is something that they don't want to acknowledge, is that they themselves may be a hypocrite of their rule. It's like, oh, you can't do this, but then they're doing this.
Right.
And, or you shouldn't do this, don't you do it, but then they're doing it. It's like, okay, well, that's a hypocrite, right? And my kids say, hey, Dad, you're a hypocrite. You said, I'm like, that's not how this works.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm your father. This is communism in here. I am right. Okay, well, I am the...
You are, honestly, in a household like that as a father, you're the lead, the spiritual lead, the one who's supposed to take the family in the right direction.
Right.
And, create this containment for building morals and values and systems, et cetera, so that your children can thrive in the outside world. Now, unfortunately, in a household like that, like my father, it's like, hey, guess what? It is more autocratic. We got to listen and respect his rules. We have to do what he tells us to do until we are established as adults and we can go out and make our own decisions. But when it comes to, if you take that into politics, if you take it into a country, it's different. You can't do the same thing you would do at a household. You have to realize the whole point of our founding republic is that everybody has a voice and everybody's rights are protected so that we can work together in sync and in unity as a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And I think the leaders, they're not leaders, they're representatives, have forgotten that. They get into this position of power and influence, and that power and influence, it like almost perverts who they are, and they get caught up in the high of that, and they want more of it. And they start to think truly that they are superior to the people they were meant to represent. That's where the hypocrisy comes in. It's like, who are you? You got elected to do this. No, you didn't just take power and grow into power. We chose you.
Right.
And you're turning around forgetting that we chose you.
Or the person we chose chooses other people because they can then they can place them in their positions. And so they say, well, I was chosen. I'm the chosen one. So I get to do it because that's who America voted for. And whether you're on either side of the aisle, that guy or gal is who was chosen for. And, if they believe in God and the other guy believes in God, then they're chosen by God. Their God. I mean, really, right? If they
which God are which
So let me ask you this. Okay, let's talk about God for a second, right? I come from a Mormon Latter-day Saint household. All right? And our God, is he the same as the Catholic God? So is he the same as the other Christian gods? So is it only a certain God is it the American Jesus that is right?
As people start putting labels and definitions on things they don't even know anything about.
You know what I've grown up. I'm very well versed. People may not realize we could bat the Bible back and forth, and I'll just be like, well, show me in the Bible where the woman wrote a section other than Esther, which is written by a guy. Because if we really go off of any of these old Bibles, they were all written by men because women weren't allowed to write in the Bible or script it.
Sure.
So all we have is. So what I'm saying is, how do we know wholly, right? So we have a faith. That's the word faith. So faith doesn't mean fact. Faith means a belief. So I have faith in what I believe in. You have faith in what you believe in. We can say, wow, I survived being on the ocean for 23 days with nothing because God saved me. That's the faith you believe that pulled you through that situation. But did God come down with his hand and pick you up and put you on the island, or did you float to the island? Was that God holding you under the water, floating you to the island? You know what I'm saying? Because like footsteps in the sand is the reason why you don't see another set is because I was carrying you. God's like, do you see these footprints in the sand? Yeah, but why is there not another second set? Well, because I was carrying you. Those are my feet print, right? The feet print in the sand. So it's like, if you know that, like, I don't know. I'm just trying to figure this out because, I've got friends who I say assalamu alaikum to. And they have a whole nother God. And I like them, and they're my friends, and I don't think that their God would be, how do we bring everybody together? What do we do here? How can we just have this American Jesus ideology right now where it's like America's God is the right one?
I think at the end of the day, what it comes down to, I'm glad you shared all that, I've talked to other Christians, other people that are very adamant about having to basically, we call them Bible thumpers, pound the belief into other people. And I've asked them questions. I said, look, is that changing anybody's hearts or minds? what you're doing? And they're like, well, not really. I'm like, so then why aren't you trying a different approach? It's not about you trying to convince other people. It's about you just sharing who you are, your story, where you're at, how it's led you into the life you have. So they can see it as an example, and then letting whatever happens for them personally change them the way that they need to be changed. It's not about you trying to change them. You have no power to do that. So I like what you shared with that is like having respect for other people. I think there is an objective morality that's all imprinted on all of our hearts. That's why people are inherently, they know lying is not right. They know that there are certain things that you don't do in society. You don't cross lines with each other. People just allow themselves to override those, I would say, guardrails, and they go into politics and they forget about those pieces of it, and they try to navigate it their way, and they create these subjective ideas of faith and morality and truth, and then they put that out into the world as if they are truly morally the higher ground, and they say they're better than you, and then we start fighting with each other. And again, if you break it all down, Rad, it comes back to, again, Jocko talks about it, other people in the community talk about it, leadership. It all starts and stops with how you operate in your personal life is going to bleed into your professional life, and we're going to see that on the world stage, and it's going to influence and affect people in a very negative way, and you can see what's happening in our country and now consequently around the world. And it comes back to, are you willing to set aside your personal agenda, your personal ideals of what you think is right, and actually do what's right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, because that takes me into another lane, right? All of a sudden I'm thinking like, okay, well, thank you for answering that. And getting into that crazy conversation. I love to have just a casual conversation and see where it goes about that, about religion or whatnot. But let's talk about the hypocrite thing that I mentioned about leaderships in politics. And then using also religion as their scapegoat. So let's say there is a hypothetical Secretary of Defense out there who gets interviewed by Congress. And that person is I believe in the Bible. I believe in the Bible, that is the word of God, blah, 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 blah. Has tattoos of crosses on him even for, let's just say that guy exists.
Yeah.
Quote unquote. Then he says, I'm going to change the military. I'm going to make it, strong and hard and where it needs to be, and I'm going to make changes and shift it around because, that's what needs to be because I believe in that, right? Okay, cool. And then he goes and say this quote-unquote secretary kicks out people who aren't like him, who dress a different way outside of the uniform, who might, be a dude that wears makeup, okay? Maybe they're a dancer and they wear makeup and they consider that trans or whatever the case is, okay? All of these things that, a lot of people, DEI has been thrown around, diversity, equity, inclusion, and these types of things are being thrown around as like it needs to go away. It's just not a healthy thing. Let's say that Secretary of Defense himself wore makeup every day as a man.
Okay.
As the leader of our forces, but yet tells another man in the military he can't wear makeup or else he's out of the military. What do you think about a hypocrite like that?
Well, I mean, that's an interesting question you pose. That you're trying to pull out my perspective on that. And
yes.
I think nuance and context matter. I think it's easy to
really,
see something look similar and immediately accuse. Okay, I see that. Okay, well, how is he wearing makeup? Where is he wearing makeup?
He's just wearing makeup. Context? Just a guy and a guy. Both guys. They wear makeup. Makeup for women by Max Factor. They're both wearing it. They're both getting it put on. If they both know what blotting paper is, then they wear makeup. Okay? So let's just say that they know how to, and let's say they even put on their own makeup because they think it looks better the way they do it themselves sometimes because they're like, you're not getting me right. What if they have that attitude and they have a mirror in a dressing room where they get dressed up with makeup and then they go and talk to the American people in makeup because they want to look good on camera, but then you have another guy who also wears makeup, but he's thrown into this other category, even though he's on camera outside the uniform. It's not in uniform. So let's say I was in the military and I was a drag performer myself, and I wore makeup for my show as a man, right? Straight up. And another man's telling me as a man, I can't do that, but he does that. Is that a hypocrite when he's performing as well?
Yeah, I mean, on the surface, straight up black and white, you can say that.
Yeah. And
But
and does that leak into the functions, do you think, of that person's mentality?
I've seen it firsthand that
Yeah.
what you do in your personal life does affect your professional life. And people thinking that you can separate that when you walk through the door of your business, they're lying to themselves. I will die on that hill. I've seen it personally with public figures. I've worked with celebrities. I've worked with professional athletes privately in their lives. And I've seen the decisions they make, the way in which they operate personally does bleed into their professional decision making, their leadership, their attitude, their mindset. So I think it comes back to, let's look at the nuanced context of what is happening here with this individual versus this individual. And if you look at the whole transgender movement in the military and everybody fighting to keep them in here, number one, it's like there's a lot more going on than them simply just putting some makeup on. Because when I was in the military, there were guys that were doing, wearing, women's clothes off duty to have fun, just playing around. There was guys that were putting makeup on, but they did not live a life believing that there was something else, and that's why they were doing that. So the other problem of it is too, in the military, people that are living that life and believing they're an opposite sex of what they're born into, believing there's something completely different, conflates their ability to perform their tasks because, number one, they're not deployable. Number two, they're constantly needing something to maintain this idea of who they are rather than being who they are. It does have an effect on the performance of a unit because what you start doing is you start changing the way in which you treat that person or these individuals or these groups of people in this community. That the military is not supposed to be a social experiment. It's not supposed to be a place where people get to express individual feelings and ideas. And that's what we're going to focus on. The military is supposed to be homogenous, apolitical machine.
Everybody. It's supposed to be a melting pot of America. It's the volunteer military. And if someone who identifies how they identify, let's just put it out there like that, okay, whatever they want to identify as, wants to join,
Sure.
and it was fine. Nothing was a problem. I mean, I know a female. She identifies female. Okay, call her female. Airborne. 100% airborne. Okay, 100% deploys. So, I personally, I don't know if I think that that's the case of non-deployable, right? There may be some mental things that we all live with, straight, trans,
Sure.
whatever. But I don't think that deployable is the key for me, right? And now we're just going back and forth like a tennis match here. And I just wanted to hear your take on it because, your bio does speak to, you believe in that same mission statement that's going out right now. And I just want to make sure I understand that because
Sure.
the people I know currently in the military who have been outed or are, maybe going to resign themselves after a long time in there, sadly, or the ladies
Sure.
that were sergeant major that are being let go. I'm like, come on, dude, sergeant major, she's like BA, I just,
Yeah.
I don't understand that mentality is what I'm saying. And you're kind of going into that world now. And I want you just to know that me personally, I don't understand what the difference is. If someone has my 6, I believe they have my 6. Isn't that it? It's like, I got your 6. Isn't that a mantra that people were all about?
Yeah, it is. But that's how are you going to have someone 6 though? I think, let me back up so I can just answer if we can ping pong.
Yeah.
Is you have to look at the fruits of the actions being taken by an entity, not the entity itself. I think if you look at the fruits of the individual, fruits of the unit, fruits of the military as a whole, can you confidently say that it was exactly where it should be and it's supposed to be and meant to be as a warfighting machine? Or have things gone off the rails and we have started to break down the fundamental purpose of a military, which is warfighting? And looking at the military, when you join the military, it doesn't matter if you're male, female, black, white, brown, purple, or green. When you join the military, every single person, no matter what your MOS is supposed to be prepared to be deployable. You can't go in the military and go, well, I want to avoid being deployed because I want to focus on changing who I am, which is what I've heard from people firsthand. Colonels, one-star generals that I know, people that I've talked to said, hey, we've had people coming in strictly to transition their gender, and they spend the entire 4 years of their enlistment doing that, and then they get out. So what was the purpose of that individual or groups of people doing that in the military? That's not what the military is for. And I think we've gotten off the track. Again, I have no problem if somebody can carry their weight, meet the standards, and they can operate at a place where they are meant to be. But
Perfect.
the idea that it's like I'm a 220-pound guy. When I'm kitted out, I weigh 350 pounds. I want someone who can pull me out of a gunfight if I'm down. If you can't do that, I don't care what gender. If there are men that can't do that, I don't
Bro,
want that
my
guy
friend's
on my team.
5'3", Marine infantry. I'm 6'5". I'm 270, bro. And if it was here, he's 5'3". He's full on Marine infantry, bro. You think he's gonna do everything he can to fire carry me, but he's not gonna be able to unless I'm half a body.
I've seen guys like him do it. I've seen guys like him try and do their best.
I get that, but I've seen G.I. Jane, man, and she pulled him out of the tank. All right, bro. At the end of the spoiler alert, if you haven't seen G.I. Jane, all right, when you pull a burning man out of a tank, O'Neill, all right, she did it. Shaved her head too. She shaved her head too because she's like, this hair's in my way. I get that. Like if this hair was in my way at boot camp, I would say take it all off. Because when I went through boot camp, I showered and shaved in like 27 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how we had to do it.
Dry shaved at the locker, showered with 1 squirt of body wash all over my bald body.
Yeah.
Out the shower, PT gear or whatever gear you're getting into, and off you go, right? Oh my God, I can't believe you're going through boot camp again. My friend, we'll call him Solid, all right? So he knows who he is. Solid just graduated 3 days ago from boot camp. Second time. He's he's a sky soldier. So 173rd.
173rd.
Yep. Okay, but that was his previous life back in 2008. Now he's going to go do something else today, which I don't want to dox him, I suppose, because he's fresh right now. And he's going to be like, yo, Rad, why, bro? Why? Why you doxing me? No, now that you say that, I'm going to use that word. But, you know, he just said that he had more bling on his Class A's when he put them on. Everyone realized that he had a combat action badge. He had his airborne jump wings. He has been in the suck. He's called 5 piss-off grids with his being a forward air controller or a forward observer. You know, he's done all of it, right? And here he is going through boot camp, and he's like, yeah, my drill sergeant didn't even have the rack I have or any of the bling I have. But I want to tell you that I was humbled. And I'm humbled, Rad, and I can't wait to get this Pogue beret off my head. And he's like, I can't wait to get this off. It's going to be changing. You'll see. And I'm like, oh, okay. I know what you're doing, dude. I know what you're doing now that you're 33. All right. A little more mature, some time under his belt. But again, he took quite a step away, you know, and I always thought that you could just kind of get back in. But is there like a time frame? So if I have a listener out there, right? Wiley, let's ask that. If there's a listener listening and they're like maybe 37 years old and they got some experience, 8 years ago they got out. Do they have to re-enlist? Tell me that.
Well, yeah. I mean, what I found out is number one.
Or boot camp,
Yes. When you've been out more than 5 years, you're required to go back to basic training and AIT. And it's not because they think you forgot how to be a soldier. It's because their technology and SOPs changed, especially over the last 20 years of war. So they just want to almost keep you up to speed, re-qualify you on weapon systems, make sure you know the standard operating procedures of the military as it is now versus when you were in. So I've been out 21 years. That's why I have to go back. So anybody that's been out less than 5 years or less doesn't have to go back to basic training. It's those that have been out longer. So that's all they were required to do it. Now that's why I'm going back for the third time. I was talking to Andy Snuff on his show a couple years ago, and he was like, "Dude, why would you do boot camp twice?" And that was the time we were chatting about it. I said, "Because I was in the reserves in high school to get some experience under my belt, and then I went active duty, so I changed MOSs, and they required me to go back to basic training as an infantryman. So that's why I had to go twice. But this is the third time because I've been out for 21 years, and I'm changing MOSs. So I'm going into a special operations MOS. I have to go train, get the kind of qualifications at basic for 9 weeks, get the 13 weeks AIT, go to jump school, and then I have to go to Camp McCall for a 50-week-long pipeline. So that's just requirements that they expect of you. Doesn't mean you don't know how to be a soldier. But I think the biggest thing you said, too, for me is, regardless of what's on my chest, I got both an EIB, a CIB, air crew member wings from flying as a door gunner, air assault qualified, driver's badge. I have my ribbon rack as well, my combat patch with 101st. It does not make me better than the people I'm going to go train with. What it just means is I've had this experience that I can share with, and I'm going to make sure that, look, it's not beneath me to go do this. I'm respecting the fact that if I get in with a 27-year-old drill sergeant, he's a drill sergeant. That guy's a staff sergeant. He deserves the respect he earned, and I'm going to give it to him. And I'm going to show these young kids, guys, This is not about your individual personal feelings or ideals. This is about you being part of a cohesive unit. And if that means you are outperforming a guy that's, your instructor or your cadre, still have the respect for them and humble yourself, because humility will take you a long way in this community.
I think your new name shall be Moses.
That's right. My beard is not long enough, though.
No, it is. It's just right. You're like the young Moses, just about to go on the mountain. Charlton Heston comes down all white beard after that point. You know what I'm saying? He's like big old white beard in the movie.
I'll be 50 when this enlistment is about done, so I'll see how my beard goes from that point.
Oh, bro. Now, one other thing. There's a little bit of a thing that you're kind of doing, and I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. Since you enlisted all the way back in the early 90s, or late 90s, right? In the 90s, and then you're picking up today, will you get those stripes put onto your wrist for time in service? Will that link up?
Everything stays. I've already gone through this process. So all the badges I've earned are mine. My DD-214 has all of that on there annotated, so I have every right to wear it. I have my combat hashes on my sleeve, my time in service hashes on my sleeve.
But don't you get those made up? Don't you get like time, like it connects them, right? So like even though you enlisted in the 90s and you're enlisting today in 2025, you still get timing all that time, right? It connects for your benefits. So it looks like you put in like
time in service.
Yes.
Yep, time in service is still there. Time in grade is still there. So going back at it as an E4, I have more than enough time in grade to be promoted E5 fairly quickly. So the likelihood is they do have this happening. I've already done the research. Is I could expect to be sent to the board during AIT because I'm already in a promotable space given my time in service and my time in grade. So they're going to push me back into a position where, of course, I have to be an E5 minimum to even graduate, the pipeline, E6 to get to my unit. So they're looking at, hey, you've got the time. It all matches. So I was just shy of 6 years. So the third stripe on my sleeve, they said when you hit that 6-year mark, basically active duty, you will get your other good conduct award. You'll get your other. So it does not start over. It does continue from where you left off.
And then once you're done and you are retired at 50, 51, you get to be VA benefits, the whole 9 yards, all those years add up together for veterans, right? So this is something that's out there where so you've got 30 some years in the military now.
No, I have, I want to say 7 with my reserve time. So by the time they said the reason why they're allowing me back in too is because I can retire active duty by the time I'm 60, which I technically will retire by the time I'm 58 if I stay in. So if I get done with this enlistment and I want to stay in, which my wife is preparing for too, I can retire with a full 20 at 58 years old. So I'll still be young, and then I can get out and do whatever I want to do.
So you got to put 13 more years. So they're not going to connect it from the 90s to today, and give you that full time?
Yeah, I've been out. So I have not been a part of the military at all. So I did my time and got out, went to school, ran my business. Now I'm going back in, but they're going to clash the two ends together. So 5.5 years active duty. Okay. Here's my new term. I'll be almost 11 years of active duty when this term.
Okay, so that's maybe what I'm thinking. So you still get all that time in. So that means that as an E4, you get 11 years pay of E4 because it pay grade every time you're in that month, right?
Well, E4 at 5.5 years, plus I'm married, so all the BAH and all the benefits that come with it. So yes, it's a decent start off again with my paycheck. Plus, then when I get promoted to E5, that kind of goes up, and then by the time I'm done with the qualification course, they'll send me off to BLC, which is a basic or ALC, Advanced Leadership course. I'll get pinned E6 when I get to my unit, and that'll keep basically increasing the benefits. But apparently,
which is cool. I'm cool with that. I want you to have that. I want you to have more than that. I want you to have the best of everything. No lowest bidder, no lowest dollar. Give the military the best contract, the best prices. Pay our staff in the U.S. to make very compliant goods so that these guys and gals get the best of everything, and none of this we got to fix it with 100-mile-an-hour tape because the lowest bidder, bro. Yeah, no, I'm just saying.
Well, you know what's Yeah, you know what's interesting? There's a guy named Dan Holloway. I don't know if you who that is, but he's a former 82nd Airborne guy. He has the Drinking Bros podcast.
Sure.
I was on his show, The Citizen, and we had a great conversation about it. And what he talks about as well is that he's big on pushing to change the way in which we feed our warfighters. So he's got contacts in the Pentagon and things like that where they are working on changing the MREs, making them obviously shelf stable, but with better quality ingredients, healthier for us. He's like, we are professional athletes for the military. You need to feed us and take care of us in a way that it behooves our best performance. So I think that's the thing that we're looking at too, is how do you optimize the people that are doing the most dangerous job for your country? Well, you got to pay them well, take care of them well, and feed them well. And I think we're on the road for that changing to be the better part of what we're experiencing.
With MREs, did you start eating them in the 90s when they were dark brown bags?
Yeah, I did.
The beans and franks was my favorite.
That was mine too.
Oh my God, that was my favorite, dude. My dad, I'd have grown up in a Green Beret family in the 90s, dude. It was just like MRE, you know what I'm saying, dude?
Do you remember when they phased them out when they had cigarettes back in the day? So I remember hearing they had cigarettes. But yeah, I got the chocolate brown packaging when I first joined in 1997, and they started phasing that out as I got into active duty. But
and then it went into like the tan ones, you know, like and then they had the 2008 don't drink the milkshake salmonella, dude. All of them were tainted vanilla.
I heard.
Yeah, dude. And the MREs that were floating around my world, even here, I was just like, don't drink that salmonella. Don't drink any of the powder. That's all I would say. I was like, you can eat your omelet, but don't drink the powder, because we do a lot of war games here in Utah. I run a war game, community friendship kind of environment. We all go do what you're going to go do, but just in a war game on the weekend, you know. We just go, you know, have a good time. And everybody likes to have the real kit on them or as close to it. And if you have an MRE out there, everybody's like, oh, that's a real MRE. Wow, we're not in the military. What is in there? It's a heater. Oh, that's where you put this in there. Yeah, you could, like, a little water goes a long way, you know. And people, here, eat your gum. Make sure you eat all your gum. Swallow it.
Dude, I was in Afghanistan. You want to talk about really appreciated every piece of the MRE. When we were in Afghanistan and we went on our very first combat op, it was a 5-day mission and it ended up being 7 because the weather came in and the aircraft couldn't come get us. The pilots didn't want to fly through that weather up in the mountains. And it was interesting is, like, we literally had to split one MRE for 2 people for that extra day that we were there. And we had 2 bottles of water, and that was it. So we had to ration ourselves. So you learn to really appreciate the gum in the MRE, right? Your cheese spread packet. I mean, all of it. So it's
jalapeno.
All the jalapeno cheese. But it was really cool because you really can, those challenges really showcase like what your mettle is, what you're capable of, especially when it comes to food, your ability to handle the stress of it. And we were fine. You know, you're infantry guys. We're used to being trained, you know, at sleep deprivation and no food, no water.
And if you don't want to waste your water on your heater, you can just pee in it.
Exactly. So I had a buddy that did that. He was like, check it out, man. I'm going to make it work with water.
Yes.
So he's like, did that. It was perfect. So
it don't matter. Yeah, dude. That's so awesome.
It is what it is. But you learn these lessons. You learn to appreciate little things like that, especially because you said gum, and I was like, it clicked me. I was like, that one moment where I was chewing my last piece of gum from my MRE that last day we were out there in the middle of the Afghanistan mountains. We just got done with this like gunfight, and it was like, oh, it was so precious to appreciate a piece of gum in your mouth after you've been up all night, basically, you know, playing 2-way rifle range with the Taliban. So.
Yeah, really, that's what it is. It's like 2-way rifle range, huh? You're just the target on their range. I mean, in a sick and twisted way of putting it, you're really just like, see you tomorrow.
Well, I was a mortarman, so I was firing my 60 mortar gun at these guys. So I was actually having more fun with that than I was shooting an M4. So
and those are rotation activated, right? You can set the mortar by like clicking it or something on the bottom of it.
So on the top of the fuse, the head has 4 different settings. So you have like your high impact, where it hits the ground and explodes. You have basically your delay, which goes down into the ground. 60, I think, is a meter. So it'll go down a full meter into the ground. So it's used for bunkers. You have near surface burst and proximity. So near surface burst is like right above the ground and a blow downwards if you have enemy lane in the prone position. Then you have like that proximity, which is a little bit higher and allow a little bit more of a spread for that round. So you have 4 settings. You have cheese charges on the bottom of the fins of the mortar round. So that helps accelerate the round out of the tube. So based on the direction, distance, azimuth, you know, the coordinates that were given by the FOs, where our target is in the open, you can play around with the round. And that's why we're able to be so effective with these mortar guns, is we're able to actually creep our rounds in pretty effectively and quickly. Plus the 60 has a kill radius of 25 meters, and anything outside of that's still going to get hit with shrapnel. So you start doing fire for effect after your fire mission starts. You're lobbing like constantly 2 guns set up, and you got guys out in the open, and you keep dropping rounds every like 2-3 seconds out of those tubes. I mean, your mission's pretty much over within a matter of minutes. So it's a pretty effective fire system, and I really love being a mortarman. That indirect fire is something special about it. Learning how to mess with mathematics while you can't see your target shooting over a mountain range that's 2 miles away from you. It's pretty cool.
Wow, it has that kind of a range, huh?
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think we're around that. I think the 81 mortar is about 3.5 miles. 60 is like 2. I think it's right around 2. So a little over 2, maybe.
Are they both 3-man operated? Like the skid? Like, is there? Which one's the 3-man?
it's in the 60s, two-man, you have two guns, you have basically two guys on each gun, a gunner and an assistant gunner who also does the ammo, and then you have your fire team leader, and then you have an 81s in the platoon, which is where I ended up first at Fort Campbell with battalion mortars. It's a whole platoon, so you have three guys per gun. There's four guns in that system, and you have an ammo bearer, assistant gunner, and a gunner. And the ammo bearer is the one that runs out the aiming poles where we set in our guns. The assistant gunner keeps the gun kind of maintained, ready to go, and the gunner kind of handles the direction on the sight itself, the gun's movement, traversing the way the gun operates. So you have these specific jobs you train for, but you also train for the job above you. And you also make sure as an ammo bearer, you know how to be an assistant gunner. Assistant gunner, be a gunner, because somebody gets killed in combat, you got to be able to operate.
Yeah, you got to do that. You have to know it.
Yeah.
You have to know it. And that's why SF teams, Special Forces guys, they have two guys on every A team that is the main radio guy and then a backup radio guy. But they all know how to radio.
They cross-train each other and pollinate with each other, so they all have the skill sets to operate autonomously, which that first op that we went on, we had an 18 Echo and an 18, I think they Deltas, right? The medics. So we had those two guys operating with us on our team with the CCT guys. So we had this like infantry, team, and then these two Green Berets. And we thought that was really cool. They were able to break off and kind of go operate by themselves like that. They were ready to go do the job they had to do. So it was pretty fun to learn that stuff.
I get a lot of guests that come on the show that have all written a book or been doing a movie or, something crazy. And I think that if you ever wanted to write a book, you're very well spoken, and it would probably come across as a good read. And you're an enjoyable individual. We have just met. We had a brief conversation before the chat about technical issues, if we have any, and what we do if we fix them. And then we just got off on this conversation with the listener and the viewer. And what I aim for this show is to show that you could have people talk from walks of life and not like be at each other's throats in this society, and we can actually have a conversation, or I can hear your points, you can hear our points, and go back and forth. So, I guess kindness is infectious. That's kind of what I say. And it's okay to be kind and to smile. It makes me feel good. You look good when you smile. Okay, your beard is definitely, you could be in a movie, bro.
Hey, brother, I appreciate that.
I know you're choosing the Army right now, but that's your new role, right? And I want you to be the best Army person that you can be, so they can make a G.I. Joe action figure out of you. You know what I'm saying? Just be the best you can be, bro.
And I appreciate that. That's what I'm striving for. Every day I'm waking up, I'm going to be ready to go, like I'm learning for the first time. I think that's the other piece that makes people successful in what they're doing is, can you wake up and like you're learning all over again and not act like you know everything. And that's, to me, I'm taking that into the Army now too. Despite my experience, my combat time, it's like I'm going into there new, ready to go. And I think but you said something, kindness. I think that's the other piece too. It takes an act of will to treat people with respect and kindness. It doesn't matter if you disagree. You can have these conversations. You can find. I think we've lost the art of argumentation in our society. We don't know how to argue, debate with each other. Yeah. That was a skill and a talent back in the day, and we did that to uplift society as a whole, because we are all individuals and different, and we can bring different perspectives and points to the table as long as we have like a fundamental baseline of mutual respect, kind of understanding objective truth, and we can find ways to. I would say progress society more.
If you could just be open.
Yeah, open.
You just have to be open. I was talking to my friend who speaks 5 languages. I'm so jealous. He's from Africa. I'm like, I wish I could speak 2 fluent languages, let alone 5 fluent.
5.
He speaks French. Yep. He's from Africa, speaks French, speaks Moroccan, speaks Arabic, speaks Greek. I'm like, how? He's like, well, where I grew up, it was all those languages. It's just like, bro. So I said, I wish people could see me and him talking when we talk. Like, hey, no one's at each other's throats. We're just having a good time, and just like what we did.
It's unproductive to have a conversation, even if you have opposing views. It's unproductive, and it leads people nowhere. And I think, again, we touched on this real quick, was that this is the reason why I think society is falling apart in its own way, is because nobody is uniting on any kind of common ground, and everybody wants to just be right rather than do what's right.
Right, and just and not say, hey, you know what, I made a mistake, and we're going to say, oh, you're a human?
Yep. If you failed, how do you recover from failure?
What's success? How can you have success without fail? How can you have peace without war? I mean, come on.
Last thought here, if you go into especially in the soft community, is being around him and having friends that did it, my brother, they look at you, at how you respond to failure, not the failure itself, because we're human, we're going to make mistakes. That's how you grow in virtue and in strength in your skill set, is if I fail, how do I react to that stress of failure? And am I showcasing my ability to manage and handle the stress that comes with it so that they know they can trust me when it comes to the real deal? And I think people get caught up in their own minds and go, well, when I fail, I am embarrassed. I think I look bad. And they get upset at that, and they don't realize, guys, everybody's gonna fall on their face, especially when you do the hardest stuff possible that you're facing in your life. I'm about to go do some really hard stuff, and I'm looking forward to the fact that I'm gonna learn through my mistakes, and I'm never gonna make them again because I'm gonna be open to that failure. And I think other people can adopt that into their lives, no matter what they're doing in life, business, etc. Can I fail and react to it in a way that uplifts the learning that I need to have right there to make people realize that I'm a trusted source of leadership, of confidence, somebody that I can respect, I can emulate and follow. And I think the military does a really good job at that. And I think civilian world could benefit from learning from guys that teach people how to fail and fail forward fast.
And is there going to be anywhere that we can follow along on your journey to see how you do? Or I know you're going to go clandestine, but like through boot camp at least, is there going to be like photos uploaded like, yo, here's Wylie with a shaved head and beard. It's like, who's the baby guy? Who is this guy? Are you sure he's grandpa?
I'm sure he's grandpa. I know this is all coming off. And my wife's like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what you look like with your head shaved and your beard gone. But I was like, okay, well, it's going to be for 9 weeks, and then I get to grow my hair back. But the beautiful thing is the grooming standards are relaxed in the unit that I'm going to, especially when we go overseas. I'm not worried about that at all. But I think the recruiting command here in Phoenix wants public affairs guy wants to do another couple pieces on following me through my journey.
Yeah,
so maybe that might be something we can put out. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you want to share that on SOFREP.com on a blog space, right? I'm sure that we can make something like that happen where you say, hey, this week's journey with Wylie, boom. Sure. And if the person, the recruiting retention or the recruiting PR person out of Arizona wants to reach out and collaborate while you're in boot camp, say, hey, here's the latest on Wylie's updates. He's doing great, 45-year-old in boot camp. Because I'm a big advocate for you choosing to make the choice to join the military if you want to. So if someone's on the fence about it, or they've been thinking I should do this, it's like you never know until you put your other foot forward and step into the career center at the Army and talk to someone who's a career counselor who can say, hey, what are you stepping in here for? We got guns, right? Okay, cool. All right. We all wear a uniform, right? Okay, well, you do what you're told, right? Well, what do you want to be now? So it's like, if you want to go check it out, I'm a big encouraging member of that. Yeah.
I'm with you. And the other thing is, like, I did a video for the recruiting command here, a really quick video. They put it on the DOD's website, and it actually got onto X or Twitter or whatever you call it. And it's amazing the way in which people are viewing the military service now as, like, I got called more names, how I'm just going to die for Israel, and I'm a traitor, I'm a propaganda machine. It's like, guys, let's let go of this idea that service to our country, regardless of what goes on behind the scenes, is somehow wrong and not good anymore. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have a military that stands up and protects what it is that we at least were founded on, what's going to result?
Well, I mean, like World War II was very much us dying for, the freedom of the Jewish people from the Holocaust. So, I don't think that's been since we went to war.
Yeah, and and again, honestly, God bless those people. I've responded to some of them with just kindness. Again, yeah. There was no reaction, and it's amazing how some of them kind of changed their tune. They're like, hey, we're really sorry I said that. Thank you for your service.
That's right.
But reality is, like, look, I talked to a guy, the other day, a retired command sergeant major, and he's like, dude, I don't know why people, he's like you. He's like, if you're on the fence, hey, service to our country is amazing still. It's still deciding to do something for the greater good. It's deciding to do something bigger than yourself, regardless of what maybe political crap that goes on in there, because there's always going to be that in the military. You're always going to have agendas and things and reasons why we go fight wars. But do you love your nation, regardless if she's flawed or not, and you want to protect her and do things for her? If you're on the fence and you feel a pull in your heart, don't listen to this. Feel here and go, you know what, I'm feeling called. At least knock on the door. And if it doesn't work out, that's what I'm saying.
And again, so anybody out there that, might be thinking like, oh, you don't want to defend the people over there. Well, we've been doing it already. So you just got to think about, who the real Antifa was. That was my grandpa. Okay. His parents or his grandparents who were Normandy, D-Day, they were fighting anti-fascism.
Yep.
Okay. To me, that's Antifa. So, boom. I got so many opinions. We've been talking for so long. We could just get back and forth. Like I talk about, like, so many opinions, but listen,
Yeah.
when you get back from boot, if you are allowed to come back on the show, I think that's another way that we can maybe follow your progress.
Sure.
We got you
Let's
the
do it.
before picture.
Perfect.
And we can bring on the baby picture, the other picture, and have you back on and maybe saying, hey, it really humbled me, or I had a great time, or boot camp had more choreography than I expected, and it really brought me up to speed. So I've really had a great time having you on the show, talking about
Likewise.
all sorts of topics across the spectrum of society, just as another dude who's playing Contra with each other, all right? That's how I want to be. That's it, bro.
That was the day right there.
That is the day. Exactly, right? So if we were just sitting here talking like that,
Yeah.
I have friends that are different opinions, and we're still friends.
Yeah. That's how life was long before whatever the last 20 years did to us. So, I mean, that's how I grew up.
The internet, yeah, dude. It's the internet. Yeah,
It is.
The internet.
Yeah. I loved prior to the internet. You get along with anybody from any walk of life. There was never any kind of clashing whatsoever. We made fun of each other, regardless. The military was like that when I joined. It was everybody made fun of each other, no matter what color you were, what background you came from. We were able to take it as that's our love language. I think people need to get back to realizing being offended is a choice. It really is. It's
Yeah. And, it's a choice that both sides should recognize if they choose to make an offense.
100%.
So,
Yep.
look, you're welcome back on the show. That was a good conversation. And, on behalf of Wylie McGraw and Brandon Webb, who runs my whole program, and all the people behind the scenes that don't really get on the camera or you don't hear, thanks for all your help behind the scenes. I'm grateful for it. Thanks for you, the listener and the viewer and the person who spends their hard-earned dollars on our merch to help keep the fireplace going. That is gas. I got to pay for that. So thank you so much. I appreciate it, right? And the book club. If you could go check out the book club, and if Wylie decides to write a book, we'll get it in our book club, okay? So put that on your things to do list before you are off this earth, good sir. So
I appreciate that.
And to your wife, also salute to her for taking on your ambitions and showing you that she's going to support you, because best of luck to you, sir.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
All right, and this is Rad saying peace.
You've been listening to SOFREP Radio.